Having explored the lunar surface, NASA shifts gears to learn to live long-term in space.
You know, engineers want to do something different. So they said, hey, we've been there, we've done that, and let's do something else.
We proved to ourselves that we can go somewhere and survive. So now the next step is going to be a much bigger one.
If we're ever going to go to Mars, we've got to understand what happens to humans and machinery when they spend a year or two in space.
NASA develops a radical new spacecraft, using a Saturn V rocket left over from the scrubbed Apollo missions.
It was a good use of the hardware we had to develop Skylab. It was a space station.
The big insight was that you could use the third stage of the great big Saturn V rocket as a habitable place to live.
Launching Skylab into orbit won't demand the rocket power that sent men to the moon. NASA converts the top of a Saturn V into the first American space station.
It's been compared to the size of a small 3-bedroom house. Each had our own bedroom. Each bedroom was about the size of a telephone booth, and the beds were fastened to the wall.
The commander of Skylab's first crew is Pete Conrad, who flew 2 Gemini missions and Apollo 12. Rookie Paul Weitz is the pilot. And another rookie, Joseph Kerwin, is the science pilot.
We could stuff it with experiments. We could put the food and water up there for 3 missions. We could do it all, and it was great.
Skylab and crew will launch on separate rockets.
This beautiful big Saturn V with the workshop on it was to launch on May 14th, and it would get into the correct orbit. The next day we would launch.
Not since Gemini 6 and 7 has NASA attempted 2 launches so close together. The unmanned Skylab flies first.
Looked like a great launch.
Went right up into the sky as far as we could see it and was on its way successfully.
Pretty soon, the news from Mission Control began to get bad. There had been a G-shock, a sudden acceleration on the way up. They didn't know what caused it.
Skylab space station now in orbit. Still some doubt in the minds of flight controllers here in Mission Control as to whether the main solar panels on the workshop have indeed deployed.
One of them didn't respond at all. The other one, just a trickle of current that they could see.
The planned 28-day mission is not possible without the workshop main solar panels.
Meanwhile, the temperatures, both outside and inside of the workshop, began to rise. We have insufficient electrical power. We have temperatures that are out of control. It looks like the heat shield is gone.
We just had to sit around our wait and worry and wonder whether or not we were going to end up getting a mission or whether we were going to lose the whole mission.
People in Mission Control were about ready to give up, I think.
The second response 5 minutes later was, come on, we're engineers. Let's get to work on this thing and see what we can do.
They stopped the next launch and they said, now your job has changed from activating the workshop to saving the workshop and then activating.
Skylab's biggest problem is heat from the sun. Engineers quickly design a giant parasol.
They not only had to understand the problem, they then had to design the hardware, they had to build the hardware, they had to test the hardware, package it for flight, and get it to the spacecraft.
After a 10-day delay, Kerwin, Conrad, and Weitz finally launch, NASA's first repairmen in space.
T-minus 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, engine sequence start, 2, 1, 0. We have launch commit and we have liftoff. The clock is running and Skylab has cleared the tower.
8 hours after launch, they rendezvous with Skylab and see the damage close up.
Houston is now controlling.
Pete flew our command service module around, and we took not only photographs but also television, whose images could be dumped to the ground. And that was priceless because it gave the engineers working on the ground a good look at what was wrong.
Roger, copy.
Brief suspicion that his suspected solar wing is gone.
The crew has to enter Skylab to repair it,
Completely off the bird.
270 miles above the Earth,
Is in fact partially
traveling at more than 17,000 miles an hour. Pete Conrad must perform a precise hard dock.
We went to dock, and the soft dock failed. There were little capture latches in the nose of the docking probe, and for some reason they were stuck shut and they never came open. We're sitting there contemplating the fact that if we can't dock, the mission is over. They'll bring us home tomorrow. But there was one final backup procedure that had never been used. If you got in there tight, they would go. So Pete gets all set for one more go, and he bumps in, and he's applying the rocket thrust. Ground said it would take about 10 seconds. If it doesn't work in 10 seconds, it's not going to work. And the probe nestles into the drogue. And we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rat-a-tat-tat, ran, and all the latches latched. It was like an explosion up there.
got a hard knock out of it.
Hey, where'd it go?
And oh, we were so relieved.
We were progressing slow but sure, and everything so far is working.
It didn't smell very good. It had a sort of a burned smell to it.
The crew gets to work in Skylab's searing heat. The astronauts take turns trying to deploy the parasol.
They put out this parasol, which was extended out through a little 10 by 10 inch aperture.
Okay, Houston, we had a clean deployment as far as the rods cleared and everything. They're ready to move.
And then a spring was released, and the fishing rods pulled up.
Operated the rod in and out stroke-wise rapidly.
It was successful, and the temperatures began to come down. They came down from the 130s to the mid-80s.
But Skylab has an even bigger problem. One solar panel had been damaged during launch and still isn't working.
The problem with the solar panel was out where there were no handholds, no footholds, no lighting, where no crew member was supposed to go. Yet it had to be done, so let's figure out ways to do it.
A backup team works with a full-size model of Skylab in a neutral buoyancy tank. Their solution is unprecedented in manned spaceflight.
For the first time, crews going outside in their spacesuits to repair problems that had never been done before.
Okay, Houston, we're out there. We have the debris in sight.
The other solar panel is jammed by a small piece of metal, preventing it from opening. If they can cut it, the panel should unfold.
There looks like enough room to get the cutter, and I'm trying to help Jill stabilize. Just take it easy.
We had a limb lop, the kind of thing that they use to trim tree limbs away from power lines. It had two brown ropes ropes attached to it. One would close the jaws and the other would open the jaws.
That's it, you got it right there.
I pulled on the close the jaws rope
Pull back.
and completed cutting the aluminum scrap. We did it. The best sight of the entire mission. That solar panel cover all the way up at 90 degrees. And the people on the ground were so pleased too because we were going to get our power back. We were going to be able to complete the mission. That was a good day. That was a very good day.
The space station is open for business. Over the next 8 months, Skylab is home to 3 crews, each setting new records for astronauts living and working in space.
You fly from one side to the other. We had erected handrails in there to move along. You don't do that. You don't use any of that stuff. I can remember the first week or so I'd do flips on the way.
The feeling of being Peter Pan, of being your own spacecraft flying around the Earth is awesome and incredible. We were zipping around there as if we had never been other than weightless.
Skylab crews log more than 3,000 hours of scientific experiments and transform our understanding of the sun.
The work itself was fun, because this is kind of work that had never been done before.
Skylab is the first step toward the human habitation of space. Jerry Carr, William Pogue, and Edward Gibson are Skylab's last crew.
They went for 84 days. Came back with less weight loss, less loss in muscle strength, in better shape all around than either of the first 2 crews.
When we returned from the mission, the doctors opined that maybe we were in better condition when we got back than when we left.
We demonstrated that you could go 3 months in space and come back in good shape. That was a triumph.
The technology of the Apollo program not only carries astronauts to the moon and back, but allows humans to live and work in space longer than ever before.
Space is basically a test of survival. Our ability to invent things that will allow us to use very limited resources. You have to use everything, and you have to use it as most efficiently and effectively as possible.
Skylab provides the foundation for a permanent human presence in space and the exploration of worlds deep into the solar system.
The power of space was to raise our aspirations to those things that are possible if we will commit.